Our favorite bastard has finally opened up about the ending of Game of Thrones as well as the Jon Snow sequel series they were developing at HBO. As you all know, Game of Thrones' final season delivered one of the most divisive endings in the history of modern media. Even as I sit here right now, over 5 years after they aired its Season 8 finale, there's Game of Thrones fans all over social media having emotional debates and discussions regarding the final season. In fact, there's some Game of Thrones and A Song of Ice and Fire fans who will never forgive the writers for how they ended our favorite show. It's really not hard to find thousands of hours of videos highlighting exactly how we all felt after the show aired its final episode. And we're not the only ones who were upset with the show's writers. I'm sure all of you remember the way the actors reacted after they read the final season. Although the actors will mostly avoid saying something bad about the writers, a lot of them were not able to hide how they actually felt in that moment. There's even a famous video of Amelia where she mockingly shared her thoughts about Game of Thrones last season.
Have you shot your final scenes yet, and are you happy with how things ended?
Yeah.
She didn't say yes. You didn't say yes.
Best season ever!
It's the best. It's the best season ever.
Although we haven't heard from every actor, I think most of us already know they secretly share the same feelings. In a new interview, Game of Thrones actor Kit Harington finally shared his thoughts about the show's finale. He also revealed some new information about the Jon Snow series as well. He said, "I think if there was any fault with the end of Game of Thrones is that we were all so effing tired, we couldn't have gone on longer. And I understand some of the fans who thought it was rushed and I might agree with them, but I'm not so sure there was any other way. I look at photos of me in that final season and I look exhausted. I look spent. I think there were some mistakes made story-wise at the end maybe. I think there were some interesting choices that didn't quite work." Although the show did leave him feeling exhausted, he also knows they shouldn't have ended the final season with only 6 episodes. It's only one of the many mistakes that Dan and Dave made. I also like how he said, "I think there were some interesting choices that didn't quite work." I'm assuming one of those was having Arya Stark defeat the Night King. He sort of revealed that already during his behind-the-scenes interview for the final season. I fully understand why he wasn't happy about this whatsoever. Now, I might be reaching here, but I believe he was livid. There should have been a final showdown with Jon Snow and the Night King. Almost anything would have been better than having Arya jumping out of a damn bouncy house onto his back. It is one of those enormous mistakes that has affected, or even infected, House of the Dragon. In fact, House of the Dragon fans get upset whenever the show reminds us of the White Walkers because we all remember how easily they were defeated after they made it south of the Wall. They are still setting them up as Westeros' biggest threat, although everyone knows they will never make it south of Winterfell. There was another interview where Mr. Harington also revealed he doesn't want to watch the new show.
I just can't watch it. I think it's, for me, it's just, I spent too long there. And I wish them all the best, and I hope, and I hear it's wonderful and going really well. But I don't think I'll ever watch that show.
It sounds like he's not ready to visit Westeros again after living there for nearly a decade of his life. Now, I saw there were a lot of fans making fun of him for this statement. They basically said, how's he not ready to watch House of the Dragon when he says he wants to make a Jon Snow show? A lot of fans think he's upset because HBO is no longer making his Jon Snow sequel series. Well, his new interview shed some light on who actually came up with that idea. Most of us thought he was the one who brought that idea to HBO. I know I certainly thought he was the one who wanted to make that show because George R. R. Martin said he was developing it with his own writers and directors. He said, "What I can tell you is it was HBO that came to me and said, 'Would you consider this?' My first reaction was no. And then I thought there could be an interesting story about the soldier after the war. I felt there might be something left to say, and a story left to tell in a limited way. We did spend a couple of years back and forth developing it, and it just nothing got us excited enough. In the end, I kinda backed out and said, I think if we go any further by developing it, we could end up making something that's not good. And that's the last thing we all want. There's a lot of baggage that goes with it, and I think that was part of the issue. Jon Snow will always be such a significant factor in my life. It might very well be the biggest thing I do. I met my wife on it, I have kids from it, and I have lifelong friends from it. I'm recognized on the street because of it, but it was also working against what I want to do, which is separate myself from the show. By still being with it, it would be very hard to ask everyone to see you as something else. And it's kind of essential to my job, for everyone to come and see me and not see Jon Snow. So it sounds like it wasn't his idea after all. Not only that, but he's also the reason why they're no longer making the show. I find this to be interesting because it shows it was HBO who still wanted to find a way to have Game of Thrones on the air. I don't think they were satisfied with how the original show ended either. I just don't understand why they allowed Dan and Dave to end the show the way they did. At the end of the day, they are the ones who own the rights to A Song of Ice and Fire. They could have hired other writers whenever they wanted, but for some reason they never did that. It was even after George R. R. Martin flew to New York and begged HBO to make more seasons. HBO even offered Dan and Dave an endless amount of money to make extra episodes. Something doesn't add up here. Now they have different leadership who doesn't want to give House of the Dragon enough funds to faithfully adapt Fire and Blood. I wonder if the merger affected Harington's relationship with the executives at HBO. If they're not giving enough resources to House of the Dragon, a show that's already incredibly successful, I wonder how much they were going to give for a show centered around Jon Snow. It initially seemed like they were excited about this idea. On his Not a Blog website, George R. R. Martin said it was actually Kit Harington who brought the idea to us. I cannot say the names of the writers or showrunners since that's not been revealed, but Kit Harington brought them in also, his own team, and they are terrific. Everyone is asking about my involvement or lack of same. I am involved, the same way I am with Night of the Seven Kingdoms and The Sea Snake and all the animated shows. Kit Harington's team has came here to Santa Fe and worked with me and my own team of brilliant, talented writers and consultants to hammer out the show. I know a lot of you don't agree with me on this, but I still think a Jon Snow series could work. Now, the actor might not have liked any of the ideas they came up with, but George R. R. Martin liked the idea enough to invite them to his house to work on the show. I would still love to see what's happening in Westeros 5 years after the events of Game of Thrones. There might not be anything happening out beyond the wall, but they could always have Jon go south again to face a different enemy. I always like the idea of an evil Bran Stark, or a greater threat from Essos, or the Shadowlands beyond Asshai. I guess it really doesn't matter anymore because the actor is no longer interested in the show. They should give House of the Dragon whatever money was allocated for the Jon Snow show. We all know Season 3 will need at least an extra $50 million. Maybe we're gonna have to start a GoFundMe for House of the Dragon. Now, I am happy we were finally given some more inside information about the Jon Snow sequel series. Let's just hope they give House of the Dragon Season 3 and Dunk and Egg the justice they deserve. The writers, showrunners, and the fans have spoken. Now it's up to HBO to do the right thing. The last thing they want to do is dismantle this franchise anymore by making the same mistakes over again. Let me know what all of you think down below. I'm always interested in hearing what you have to say. Once again, I want to thank all of you for watching another video. I will be making new videos every week about Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon, Dunk and Egg, The Winds of Winter, and so much more. As always, have a great day everyone. I will see you again very soon. Bye.